Key number 2, figurative thinking, which I'll frame with this question: what can a career development professional learn from a metaphor? Well, early on in my writing career, I went to this poetry workshop, and when I get into the room, I see a whiteboard with a bunch of questions on it. And below those questions, there's a prompt that reads, "Wrong answers only." So I'm thinking, okay, I should be good at this. I've dated a couple times, and so. Oh, I see you've dated too, great. And so I take out my notebook and I begin to breeze through these cues with ease. And so when the board asks for something you catch on your tongue, I write parents. When it asks for a popular diet, I write crippling fear. When it asks for what you use a sledgehammer for, I say remembering your dreams. When it asks for what comes out of an egg, I write creativity. I'm about to close my journal shut when I catch the eyes of the instructor, and she's shaking her head at me. And she says, "You're not quite done yet." We're going to come right back to that. Don't forget that story. Because for a moment, I want to tell you a story about two friends named John and Matt, who in the early 2000s lived in San Francisco, a city that they both loved. They loved biking down its striking hills. They took a liking to its deeply creative spirit. They even grew to love its offensively cold summers. If you know, you know. Horrible. One thing they didn't love about San Francisco, though, was its cars. They mourned how the city's vibrant downtown was carved up by congested streets that cut off the residents and the businesses that gave the city the character that they knew and loved. But one day, fed up with their frustrations, they set out to do something about this. And at first, they dreamt big. They were like, what if we owned the streets that these cars drive down? If we did, we could use them for whatever we wanted to. Obviously, they couldn't do this because San Francisco streets aren't for sale. But as they kept exploring, they realized that while buying the streets was way out of reach, throughout the city there was a particular class of real estate that they could rent at a fairly reasonable rate. And that just so happened to be parking spaces. And so with smiling faces, one day John and Matt, they maxed out a meter in downtown San Francisco. They set up a couple of lawn chairs and rolled out some AstroTurf, and for the single day, turned a parking space into a parking space. And now, it didn't take long for others to notice. Pretty soon, folks across the city were following in John and Matt's lead, maxing out meters on street corners and in parking lots to set up benches, greenery, and even a concert stage or two. And pretty soon, word of the project catches on globally, and eventually, it leads to the creation of Parking Day. A single day every year when folks from Saskatchewan to Sao Paulo team up to empty rolls of quarters into thousands of meters, and for a single day, reclaim the streets from the cars that own them. Now, what I love about John and Matt's story is that instead of giving up when their original idea felt absurd, they searched for a solution that captured the spirit of that original dream. In other words, instead of approaching their challenge literally, they came up with a way to think about it figuratively. And in doing so, the solution snowballed into something so much bigger than what it began as. See, figurative thinking is how we extract possibility from what feels absurd. It's the process by which we draw connections between an impossible dream and the 1,000 unusual opportunities to bring it to life that are right at our fingertips. You see, poets use metaphors to bring images to life that would feel absurd if we thought about them literally. When Shakespeare compares his lover's face to a summer's day, it's not because they're full of bugs and make him sweat, I don't think. But thinking in metaphor is something that all of us can and should be doing as leaders in this space. Over the next couple of days, we're going to leave this conference with ambitions that, in the best case scenario, are going to feel so far off that we might question whether they're even possible in the best case scenario. But figurative thinking is about suspending our disbelief just long enough to make progress towards something that feels impossible. For example, when a poet asks you to answer her questions incorrectly, but in her next breath challenges you to write a poem in which your wrong answers are proven true. You may catch your parents on your tongue when you tell yourself it can't be done, and your heart starts to groan. But this is a natural reaction of someone raised on a diet of crippling fear of the unknown. So when you raise that pen like a sledgehammer above your head, remember your childhood dreams as you shatter the dam of disbelief and let your thoughts spill onto the page. And no, these scribbles may not crack the code to the universe, but as you stare at this cracked egg of an idea splattered across the page, you just might find something else among the mess, and that something might look a lot like your creativity. Thank you. Thank you all so much.